Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another book content video. Today I want to give you some recommendations for my personal favorite genre of all times, and that is murder mysteries. Now personally I like my murder mysteries on the let's maybe call it innocent or traditional side. And what I mean by that is I prefer older murder mysteries instead of like modern day thrillers or something like that, because I find that modern day, be it crime shows or novels in the thriller or murder mystery genre, tend to be very detailed in its like violence, in its gruesomeness, etc. Personally, that is not my style. So I like to go for like old-fashioned murder mysteries such as Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, which, I mean, of course, murder is still the main theme in all of them, and obviously murder is still like a criminal and a violent act. But the way murder is like talked about or like even committed in those old stories is usually, well, there's less violent detail involved, and often like the solutions in these older mysteries are just like, oh, okay, he did it like for the money or something like that. It's like okay, but like these days it's like so often I think that solution involve like these really psychotic, sadistic serial killers and make you like despair about the entire world, and I don't like that. So personally I like to keep it, as I said, somewhat innocent, which I know sounds kind of contradictory because still then murder, still like violence, etc. But maybe you get what I'm saying. Maybe you have the same taste as me. So here we go. But at the same time, I can understand if you maybe are not interested in getting into this like older literature of like Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes, etc. So what I want to recommend to you today is another genre that might suit your taste if you're similar to me, which is like YA murder mystery, because usually YA literature is also less detailed in violence, gruesomeness, all of that good jazz, right? So today I'm going to recommend to you, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 YA, or some of them might even be per se considered children's books, but honestly I read them when I was not a child anymore, I can tell you that, and I still enjoyed them. So let's just call it YA. And no matter what genre they're actually in, there's like no age stamp on any of them. You can read whatever literature at whatever stage in your life. Okay, so I'm gonna recommend to you 6 series, because yes, all of these books are not standalone. So if you find yourself liking them, I got you covered for a while, because I think each of them at least has 4 episodes or like 4 books in the series, if not even a lot more. Okay, so let's get started. The first series I want to recommend to you is the Young Sherlock Holmes series by, let me fact check, Andrew Lane, that's right. Now, as you can probably already tell by the title, our protagonist is still Sherlock Holmes, but not him as an adult, but him as a adolescent. Other than that, the story does take place in the 1860s and 70s, such as the original Sherlock Holmes story. So it's not like transposed into modern day. No, it does take place in the past, but we have our like teenage protagonist and also like his teenage sidekick, and like he obviously, as every normal teenager out there, or at least in these book series, they get involved in crimes and murders left and right, and well, he ain't a normal kid. He's gonna solve all of that by himself. Or like, does he have a sidekick? I suppose there ain't no Sherlock without a Watson, right? It's, to be honest, like all of these series, it's been a while since I've read them, because now I love Agatha Christie and Sherlock Holmes. I've always loved them, but like right now I pretty much solely read these or like other modern day murder mysteries that are not too violent for me. So it's been a while since I read any of these YA books, but I can wholeheartedly recommend all of them to you. I remember that I really did like them. So that's the first series, Young Sherlock Holmes. Then the second one I want to recommend to you are the Charlotte Holmes novels. But hear me out, this is not just like another Sherlock Holmes retelling. The Sherlock Holmes novels, or like the Sherlock Holmes series, is about the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and James Watson, and actually it is about the female descendant of Holmes, which is Charlotte Holmes, and how she's like, I think the story goes like this, that like in the first book she's entering this like boarding school in England, because duh, and she gets to know the descendant of James Watson, which, wait, is his Jamie, yeah, his name in the series is Jamie Watson, so I changed it from James to Jamie. Oh, okay. And there's a little bit of like an enemies to lovers trope going on. Like at first they don't get along, but then they do get along, and obviously there's murder happening and they start solving it together. This storyline is transposed into the 21st century though, so it's taking place in modern day time. Plus I will have to give like a little bit of a trigger warning, I think, because I said that like most of these are like more innocent or like child adolescent friendly, but actually in this series I only read the first and the fourth book, because like by the time I read the first one, only the first one had been released yet, and I know I loved it, but then I kind of, I guess, lost it out of my sight when the second and the third got released, so I didn't read them. But then I picked up the fourth one, and in the fourth one it was insinuated, and like this is not a spoiler, or maybe it is, but I consider it a trigger warning, so I hope you're okay with that, that apparently within the second or third novel sexual assault is taking place. So obviously this is not a 100% innocent children's or like teenager story, but there are like some heavy duty topics being discussed, so be aware of that. Moving on to what is most definitely even children's friendly series though, but I even enjoyed it as like an adolescent, so again, no judgment of age here, is the Murder Most Unladylike series by, again, fact-checking, Robin Stevens. Now this series, I think out of all of these, it is my favorite, or like my second to favorite. I really loved all these books. Now in these books we have our protagonists Hazel Wong and Daisy Wells going to a boarding school, again in the English countryside, and they open this like, yeah, detective society at their boarding school when a murder is taking place. And they solve that murder in the first book, and then they take on more and more cases in the following books, and not all of them take place in that boarding school. Sometimes they solve murders while they're away on vacation somewhere, etc. And these I found to be so wholesome. I really love them. So yeah, honestly, check these out. If you're gonna check any of these ones out, check that one out. That's my recommendation. I mean, that's what this video is about, my recommendations to you, right? So here we go. Another very child-friendly series that is, I discovered it because I was looking for something similar as the Murder Most Unladylike series, is the Sinclair's Mysteries series. Now this has a very similar storyline, as in we have two girls being the protagonists in the, gosh, I'm so bad with like time spans, but like the Murder Most Unladylike books take place in like the 1930s, and I would place this in like a similar time span, so like we're a bit further in the past, but not like as much in the past as like Sherlock Holmes, if that gives you any frame of reference. And like our girls in this book series also open up a detective society, or like a detective bureau, after they successfully investigate a murder, and they're both working at a department store Sinclair. That's why it's called the Sinclair's Mysteries, and some of them are obviously centered around that department store, which is like this like really prestigious, big, glamorous thing in London. And some of them are again centered outside of that department store. But that too, this series too, I found to be very, well, wholesome. Like I love that mixture of wholesomeness, but also like murder mystery detective stories. I love that. What can I say? I love it. Okay, and I guess you do too, otherwise why would you be here? Maybe just for watching. Thank you. Okay, but maybe you'll love it. Anyways, now if you like your books to have a bit of a fantasy hint, what I can recommend to you is the Jackaby series. Now personally, I have mentioned it a few times that I'm myself not a fantasy lover, but with this I was actually okay. So the Jackaby novels also take place in the at the end of the 19th century, so like similar to Sherlock Holmes. And our protagonist, Jackaby, is a very Sherlock Holmes style protagonist. He is not Sherlock Holmes as in like the young Sherlock Holmes series, but he's supposed to resemble Sherlock Holmes in a lot of ways. But the Jackaby series does not just it's not just centered around normal murders, but it has these fantasy elements of like otherworldly creatures being like involved in the murders and like this supernatural element. It wasn't, gosh, it's been a while, as I told you. It wasn't too bad for like even me to handle. I remember I did like them. But yeah, I mean, if you don't maybe like fantasy all that much like me, maybe check out the other series first. But if you're cool with that, or if you like actively seek out a murder mystery plot that somehow includes supernatural elements, Jackaby, there you go. Okay, and now last but not least, I'm putting this last even though it is like this and Murder Most Ladylike are like competing for my number one in this category, and that is the Three Investigators. Now, the thing is, I know this series is very, very huge in Germany. Like, I think it originated in America, but I think it was not overly popular in America, so I don't really know if it's like a thing anymore over there, but it is a huge ass thing in Germany. In Germany, it's called Die Drei Fragezeichen, and it's actually an audiobook, an audio play series. There are books released for them as well. Most of them like being like non-official, like it's not like one author writes all these books, or they're almost like short stories. They're like very, very thin books. But I think there's like a very special situation going on with like the trademark, because apparently anyone can write a Three Investigators novel and publish it under that name, and it's like, okay, I don't know, the situation per se is maybe a bit confusing, but the audiobook series is huge in Germany. They're like over, oh my gosh, they're like at this point over 200 episodes. And well, our protagonists are our three investigators. Should I do this in German? Maybe almost like Justus Jonas, Peter Shaw, and Bob Andrews, and they're like these teenage boys living in Rocky Beach, and they have like their detective bureau, and all day, every day, they get involved in, well, the thing is, because this is also like a child-friendly series, usually it's not even murder. No one ever dies in these episodes, which makes it child-friendly, but they're always involved in like, well, crimes of some sort, or like maybe identity fraud, or like robberies or something or other, but like usually no one ever dies. Does anyone ever die? I don't think so, because it wouldn't be child friendly, I guess. But like that series, honestly, I love it to this day. Sometimes when I'm bullet journaling, I'm listening to the Three Investigators, and I'm not ashamed to say so. So if, again, I think this is only sound like a recommendation for my German viewers, so I'm sorry. But maybe there are also like audiobooks, like novels of this out there in English, or like translations, whatever. But hell, Die Drei Fragezeichen never gets old. Okay, thank you so much for listening to this. Maybe you will enjoy any of these YA murder mystery series. I would love to do maybe like a second part of this segment, recommending to you my favorite like adult murder mystery novels that are still innocent, as I described it in the beginning of this video. So maybe we'll do that next, but I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Nice. Gotta get up again. Okay. Bye.